So this is the story called The Prince Who Was Just Himself, and it's about a prince who had Down syndrome. Once upon a time, there lived a king and a queen who had two sons, Big Prince Luke and Little Prince Jonas. "Two children are not enough for me," said the queen to the king one day. "I wish I had more children. Children are simply wonderful." The king was not sure. He looked at all of the castle windows that had been cracked during princely soccer games. He remembered the prince's howls of protest when they didn't want to go to bed in the evening. I'm sure you guys always went to go to bed for your parents. He felt tiredness creep over him as he thought about being awakened every night as the princes who wanted to sleep close to him in his big kingly bed. But the queen took the king by the arm and led him down to the palace gardens. There before their eyes, Prince Jonas made a perfect penalty kick. The king was mighty proud of him. After the usual bedtime howls, he tucked the princes into bed. Then Prince Luke read aloud to him from his favorite book. The king's heart was softened and he was mighty proud of his older son. In the middle of the night, when the two little princes crept into the royal bed, the king moved over to make room for them and thought, "There's nothing more wonderful in the world than having children." One day, the queen announced that she was expecting a baby, and everyone was terribly excited. After many months of waiting, Prince Noah was born. He looks a little different," said the king. "He's not like the others," said the queen. "He's our brother," said Prince Luke. "He is just himself," said Prince Jonas. And right away, they all loved Prince Noah very, very much. When the royal family proudly presented Prince Noah to the people, they were quite surprised. A few of them whispered behind their hands to each other, "What an unusual prince." Some began to laugh, while others were downright mean and shouted, "He's not one of us." The prince, who was just himself, only smiled at them and was happy to be out in the sun. He did everything very slowly, just like someone who takes his time doing something he loves because he wants to enjoy every minute of it. He crawled unhurriedly across the royal lawn, stopping to look carefully at every daisy he came across. He listened quietly and thoughtfully whenever the queen sang to him, and he never interrupted her. He was not very good at running and jumping, but it didn't matter because he was never in a hurry anyhow. He liked being wherever he was and was not worried about where he would go next. He hardly ever used words or sentences, yet people understood him just as well. One day, a great storm arose and the sun was darkened. The terrible knight Scarface wanted to attack the kingdom. The royal family and all the people in the land were terrified, but the princes knew that they had to protect their kingdom, so the three of them saddled their horses and rode onto the battlefield. The great knight Scarface looked wicked and powerful. He sat bolt upright on his horse and raised his sword above his head. His mighty army was assembled behind him, waiting only for him to give the signal to attack by letting his sword come crashing down. All the warriors held their breath. Only the storm wind blew in gusts that made their armor creak and rattle. Scarface braced himself against the gust and angrily raised his head still higher so that he would look even bigger and fiercer. The wind made his eyes water, and tears ran down his cheeks in little streams. At this, the prince, who was just who he was, cocked his head and looked intently at the knight. Suddenly, without saying a word, as was his custom, he spurred on the horse and rode directly towards Scarface, stopping only when he was right in front of him. Then Prince Noah stretched out his little right hand and touched the scar on the knight's face. Looking deeply in his tear-filled eyes, he asked in a soft, caring voice, "Does it hurt?" Scarface opened his mouth and then shut it again. Bewildered, he let his sword arm sink to his side. He shook himself and rubbed his eyes in surprise. He stared at Prince Noah, whose little hand was still touching the scar on his face. Such a thing had never happened to Scarface before. He knew all about hate and fighting, but he had never before encountered love and caring. Strange new feelings filled his heart, and he didn't know what to do. He began to tremble all over. First his teeth chattered, then his armor rattled, and then even the legs on the horse began to shake. In order to warm him, the prince, who was just himself, threw his arms around the mighty Scarface. A hush fell over everyone. Even the storm quieted down, and the sun peeked out from behind the cloud, not wanting to miss what was happening. As they watched, a smile slowly spread across the knight's face. And then a voice broke the silence. "Long live Prince Noah. He has saved us. Long may he live." More and more voices joined the chorus, sounding louder and happier every moment. Long live Prince Noah, our great Prince Noah. The king and queen, Prince Luke and Prince Jonas, and all the people of the land were mighty proud of the little prince. The prince, who was just himself, only smiled at them and was happy to be out in the sun. And that's the end. So tomorrow, Miss Williams will send you some links of just some more things you can learn about Down syndrome. But I'm glad we got to share this book with you, and I hope that you guys have a great day. Bye.